Bilal, and I am a student of Professor Dr. Janjibin. And my research, I have done my research with the joint program with Chinese Academy of Forestry under the co-supervision of Professor Wang Yanfei. Hereby I declare that my research topic on strain structure or optimization through trade-up between overstory and understory layer of large plantation in Yukon Mountain, Ningxia, Northwest China has not been submitted to any other university than Beijing Forestry University for any type of academic degree.
Sorry, I think first the declaration.
Yes, I just declared this is my declaration in Chinese. In English. Okay, so my topic is strain structure optimization through trade-off between overstory and understory layer of large plantation in Yukon Mountain, Ningxia, Northwest China. My whole presentation consists on 4 parts. The first part is about introduction. First, ecosystem are composed of highly complex mixture of biophysical structure occupied by overstory tree species and understory vegetation, which provide various goods and services. So, these forest ecosystem services are recently used as a rising concept for the production and sustainable use of forest resources in the form of multiple purposes uses is the timber production, understory vegetation, biodiversity, biomass production, carbon sequestration, soil moisture conservation, soil protection, erosion control, water resource management, and yield regulation, and other non-timber forest produce, etc. So, the natural forest cover reduced due to many reasons, due to climate changes, due to global warming, due to human anthropogenic activities, many reasons, and increasing attention was gained by plantation forests. But traditional plantation management with the sole aim of maximum timber production, which is mostly managed for maximum timber production, changing to multiple ecosystem service-oriented management, where the understory vegetation is often ignored in traditional plantation. And understory vegetation is a decisive component of any forest ecosystem, since it sustains the forest ecosystem stability, influence numerous forest ecosystem services and other biodiversity components, as well as contribute the total forest ecosystem carbon density. Okay, so therefore we require a trade-off for optimal and sustainable supply of these services related to overstory and understory vegetation layer in the forest ecosystems. Okay, for this purpose, many efforts were made to quantify the interaction between overstory and understory structure indexes and to search a practical and quantitative trade-off approach for balancing the competing main services of overstory and understory vegetation. Therefore, our study quantified based on the evaluation of these influences, these effects of tree density and at varying age on the tree growth, timber volume, canopy density, biomass production, and understory vegetation species number with the help of simulation model. And we developed a practical trade-off approach here in this study. Okay, these are the detailed objective, and these are the suggested problem to be solved in our research study. So based on these objectives, these detailed objectives, it is hoped that this study can promote the integrated multifunctional management of the large plantation for supplying the forest ecosystem services in a balanced way. It was planned to develop a more general decision-making procedure for multifunctional forest management. So this is our route map. Okay, we work to this route map. And this is our study area map, which is located in the southern part of Yukon Mountain. Nature reserve is, this is the elevation. their elevation methodology. In method data collected are about tree layer, shrub layer, herb layer, and humus and soil layers. For tree layers, we carried out 82 plots in which diameter, height, age, and name vector we calculated. For shrub species diversity, and herb species diversity, we take 31 plots, and for other understory variable, we take 66 plots. For humus and soil carbon, we take 20 plots. In statistical analysis, nonlinear regressions were used for logistic growth parameter estimations. Upper boundary plots were used selecting of highest value at least one standard deviation higher than the mean value. Regression analysis and ANOVA. In statistical software, we use Species 19, Sigma plot 12.5, Excel 13, Statistic 8.1 were used. Okay, so now we come to the main part, achievement result part. We determine the effect of stand structure on four-story tree growth, timber production, and understory vegetation species diversity, on four-story and understory vegetation biomass, on carbon density of large plantation ecosystem, and then we determine a trade-off approach for competing services. Okay, in competing services, we first determine the timber production and understory vegetation and species diversity, and second one is between overstory and understory vegetation biomass. Okay, so this is the first achievement effect of stand structure on overstory tree growth, timber production, and understory vegetation species diversity. But before we start, we first make analysis. We first quantify the maximum tree density at stand age, because due to green timber policy ban and timber cuttings, so many of forests in China leads to over-dense forests. So therefore, we quantified the relation between them, in which 2700 is for 15 age, 2500 is for 20, and 1900 is for 25, and 1500 trees per hectare is for 30, and similarly 13 per 35 age. Okay, variation of maximum tree density with age. Okay, then we determine the effect of tree density in age on tree growth. Okay, so here we use the upper boundary plots to determine the trend. Okay, to fit this value, to know that whether this relation is fit or okay for the logistic growth model or not. So we determine the mean height and mean DBH with the stand age. Okay, and find their logistic growth relation. While with tree density, we determine it with the power function. So then we couple this relation in logistic growth model. This is for DBH, this is for height. Okay, and we put these with the help of these parameters. Okay, these are the parameters which we determine by non-linear regression through SPSS. Okay, so 1 to 2 okay. Okay, this. So here you can check that under each tree age, the mean height, mean DBH, and single tree volume decrease with tree density along with each age, while the total tree density, while the total timber volume increases with increasing tree density. So these were the parameters we derived. Similarly, for canopy density relation with tree density in age, we determine the relation through upper boundary plots with stand age, determine the logistic relation with stand age, and with tree density we determine the power function. Okay, here is the logistic growth model for canopy density. Okay, this is the power function with n, and this is the logistic growth relation with the density. So then we combine this here. So it shows that with increasing tree density under a given age, the canopy density is increasing. Okay, canopy density. Okay. Then later on we determine the variation of poor story plant diversity with tree density. Okay, so we use three indexes: Marguerite index, Simpson index, Michelin and Viewer index. You can see that with increasing tree density, the species diversity increased up to some extent, but later on it decreased from 1800. So, but here we not use this as a trade-off, because our trade-off we need a balance point for all the species on which we make the trade-off. So furthermore we analyze the understory vegetation number combinedly, the herb and shrub species in the form of understory vegetation number. So we determine their variation with canopy density. Okay, here we check that up to 0.6 canopy density it increases, and it's okay, it's reasonable up to 0.7 canopy density, but later on after 0.7 canopy density it decreasing quickly. So we suggest that here that by keeping 0.6 to 0.7 canopy density, we will get the maximum possible higher understory vegetation number, means species diversity. And later on, this equation we use at the last trade-off analysis. Okay, so then we go to the second achievement, the effect of strain structure on overstory and understory vegetation biomass. And this we make the same analysis as we make for the tree growth, that make the upper boundary plot and determine the logistic growth duration with tree age and power function with tree density, and couple these effects with the help of non-linear regression through spaces, and fit the value. Here is the parameter. This is the parameter for this logistic growth model for biomass. This is logistic growth model for biomass. Here you see that the single tree biomass decrease under each stem age with increasing the tree density. Okay, while the total overstory tree biomass increase with increasing tree density. Okay, so then after that we determine the effect of tree density on overstory and understory vegetation biomass. So 0.7, their production is good enough. So if we keep from 0.5 to 0.7 for understory vegetation biomass production, it is good. But here you can see with the overstory biomass, their production is good enough and up to 0.7 canopy density. Later on it becomes flat, and you check the curve, the trend. This become flattened, and even the data point become reduced. So we suggest here if we maintain the canopy density up to 0.7, so we get both possibly a higher understory vegetation biomass as well as enough overstory biomass. Okay, so here we also suggest 0.7 canopy density as an optimal canopy density. Okay, then we determine the effect of overstory biomass on understory vegetation biomass. So they give us an inverse relation. As the overstory biomass increase, the understory vegetation biomass decrease. So it means they have an inverse relationship. You can check this model. We further use a later trade-off analysis when we making trade-off analysis. Okay, so then the third achievement, effect of strain structure on carbon density of large plantation. Okay, so we determine the tree component and tree carbon density variation with stem age. We divide the stem ages into 5 stem age classes. Okay, and which it's clearly shows that the stem, the components, stem carbon, bark carbon, branches, leaves, and roots, they increase with increasing age, and the total carbon density also increases. Tree layer, this is for tree layer. While inversely, the understory vegetation layer carbon density decrease with increasing the stem age. This stem age class is when it's increasing the understory vegetation carbon density of shrub and herb layer decreases. Furthermore, we analyze the effect of strain structure on vegetation carbon density. It's combined vegetation carbon density, meaning including tree layer, herb layer, shrub layer combinedly. So we determine the relation here. You check data up to 0.7 canopy density. Their production is very good, and later on it becomes later. While from data points you can see that it's become decreasing. So 0.7 canopy density is also an optimum canopy density for vegetation carbon density, and this is the 1811 is the optimum proper canopy density. So here we also suggest that if we maintain a proper tree density under the optimum canopy density of 0.7, so we get the possibly higher vegetation carbon density. Okay, so then we measure the carbon density in humus layer. Okay, this is the humus layer inside there. This is the humus layer carbon density increase as the tree, with the effect of tree, when their later use, later content increase, so the humus layer biomass increases. While the soil carbon density first increase up to 20 year age and then decrease. There are some many reasons. First is next soil loss due to plantation management, as we mentioned in the study area. This was first the natural secondary parts, and then the land use change system is changed to plantation management. So therefore, after 20 year age, it becomes decreasing. Second factor is soil depth. With increasing soil depth, the soil carbon density decreases. Canopy density, understory vegetation biomass in stock is decreasing. That's why it's decreasing. And third one is conversion factor. As the upper canopy become more and more dense, so lower in the soil conversion, conversion is become difficult. And furthermore, we analyze the carbon density in humus layer with canopy density and overstory tree carbon. Here you see that within up to 0.6 and 0.7, especially 0.7, it's okay, it's flattened, but later on after 0.7, it's completely, you see, it's decreases. The trend is decreasing, and here also you check for humus layer. After 0.7, it's completely decreasing. Up to 0.6, it's maximum. Then up to 7, it's flattened, and then after 7, it's become decreases. So here we also suggest for soil and humus layer the optimal canopy density is up to 0.7. If we maintain canopy density up to 0.7, so we get possibly higher humus layer carbon density and soil carbon. Similarly with overstory, up to some extent, when the overstory tree layer carbon density increase, the soil carbon increases. But later on, as you check here, you check from this curve, this decreases. So, and while the humus layer carbon density increases. So here we need to balance these two, means the overstory and understory, their productions. So therefore, this study is important. Later on we will make the trade-off analysis, then you will better understand ecosystem carbon density and its component. The whole ecosystem carbon density is increasing. You check the figure here. In each stand age, it's increasing. Okay, and this is the ratio graph. Then we come to the final achievement, trade-off between the competing large plantation ecosystem services. Okay, so we make trade-off between the competing ecosystem services. The trade-off through the final trade-off through optimum canopy density 0.7, which we suggested in the earlier slides, and fitted model. The proper tree density was suggested 2600, 20,000, 1600, 1250 and 1000 trees per hectare for the ages of 15, 20, 25, 30 and 35 respectively. So under these proper densities, which we take through optimum canopy density, the overstory timber volume and biomass production decreases a relatively low ratio, while we get the understory vegetation species diversity and understory vegetation biomass can increase at a higher ratio with an improved tree size and timber quality. Okay, this is the first trade-off analysis. For first trade-off analysis, the first attempt we make for first trade-off analysis 2 attempts. One on raw data. Here we make the at that point we make the trade-off analysis where the canopy density is 0.68 and we get the maximum possible understory vegetation species diversity 27 and stand timber volume is 169 meter cube per hectare. So here we suggest that if we maintain the canopy density is around about 0.7. You can check here is 0.7. Okay, so should be maintained, should be kept. So then we use that concept and the final trade-off for the trade-off between timber production and understory vegetation species. So this we made with the help of simulation model. These are simulation model, logistic growth model for DBH, per height, per canopy density, the parabola per single tree volume, and per combined stand timber volume, and with the regression equation in figure 5.7. So we make this. So under each age, 15, 20, 25, 30, we get the maximum possible understory vegetation number in species diversity and also possibly higher, possibly enough timber volume production. Okay, so this is the balance point through optimum canopy density. And then the second attempt we make the second trade-off we make for between the overstory and understory biomass. This is the logistic growth model with the help of canopy logistic growth model and overstory biomass the formula and with the help of regression model 5.11 and the figure 5.11. This also we make it under the optimum canopy density of 0.7, so we get possibly maximum understory vegetation biomass with enough overstory biomass. So this is we made the trade-off. Okay. In conclusion, the overstory timber production biomass production and understory vegetation species diversity, biomass production and carbon density of lot plantation were contrarily affected to the tree density, the tree age and canopy density. The increase of tree density at any given age will lead to increase the total timber production, tree and humus layer biomass and carbon stock, the canopy density, but decrease the single tree size, species diversity and biomass and carbon stock and understory layer due to increased canopy. So the competition between overstory and understory related forest ecosystem services can be balanced by keeping a proper tree density corresponding to the optimum canopy density around 0.7. Okay, with the aim of increasing understory plant species diversity and plant and biomass without too much loss of overstory timber production and biomass production and large plantation. At last, we make decision process for multifunctional forest management. So, based on this study, based on this simulation model for a more precise decision making, the model describing the coupled effect of tree age and tree density on overstory stand structure, tree height, DBH, timber volume, canopy density, and overstory biomass, and on the understory vegetation species number and understory vegetation biomass were developed and fit with the measure data. So, with the help of this, we get a more general decision for any forest, a general decision tool based on the keeping the canopy density up to 0.7 for any forest to promote the multifunctional forest management and forest ecosystem services for any plantation or forest. Okay, thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you. You can say your comments.
Master is all those people's name with no words, you see?
Okay.
Yeah.
It should be narrow.
And then in your work with coffee, and so on. I think so. But I found in your research, you attempt to talk about the aspect of soil, you know, sun side or no sun side.
Yes. Slope.
Yeah. Aspect is slope is sun side.
Yeah.
Is
Not right side.
other side.
Yeah.
We know in China, also sometimes the growth, the trees growth, we have some important factor for stand side is water, soil water, and sunshine. In US table 5.4, you give some important factor. Example, elevation, slope, gradient, but haven't spectrum slope.
Slope, I heard slope vectors.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. Maybe in Henan Mountain we have enough precipitation.
Yes.
Also in my country illustration, we for trees stand site, we have a very important factor, spectrum slope.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, well, that's work, yeah. No comments or questions. And I later focus on the soil sense, so I pay more attention for the soil carbon parts.
Yes, sir.
And I'm wondering, what's the sampling depth? What's the sampling depth
Yes.
when you collect the soil sample? Because you will, I'm not sure. You collect the sample and determine the total carbon in the cubic layer and also the soil, or just you measure this total carbon content in the soil layer. I'm right? Or
Yeah.
just according to the model? I'm not sure.
If they look at the
Write down.
Okay.
Yeah. And also, do you consider the soil heterogeneity? Because we know the soil is heterogeneous. So do you consider the soil heterogeneity on the soil carbon density? Yeah. And how about this kind of effect on your model, on the prediction of your model, like that? And another thing is because you find the optimal canopy density is 0.7,
yes.
how could we manage this forest? How can we manage the forest to reach this optimal density? Yeah, do you have some suggestions? And another sense, just like the journal writing sense, yeah, the same for literature, for the reference. And like the 86, there also you use the capital for the title of the reference. Some you use the capital letter, like the how to say the one, the middle one, like Wang Yu, I don't know this guy. That's because the difference is 2015 B. You can see the characteristic of the biomass. You use the capital letters for each. Do you find one is page 86? 86. Yeah, page 86. You can see this in the middle parts. There is a difference, like the Wang Yu. I don't know this guy. Then 2015 B. You can see this. You use a capital letter in the title. You can see the characteristics of biomass carbon density. Those are capital letter, but you can see the upper one. For the title, you don't use the capital letter for each sheet. Like this. I hope you can keep this different style consistent. Yeah, that's more better for improve your thesis. Yeah. And another thing is about the finger. Like the 38, that's the finger 5.2. Finger 5.2, you can see.
Which?
Page 38.
38.
Yeah, 38. 38. Finger 5.2. Yeah, usually for the because you have publications, you know for each fingers we almost when we say the fingers, we need to know everything's here. Yeah, so for the every you just use some short name like the DBH and the LGM like this. Usually in the title you should give the full name first, then use this kind of short name or abbreviation like that. That's easier for the readers to know what's your taking on and what's the finger tell us like that. So this just some minor parts I want to remind you. So I think you should also go through the thesis and make sure the fingers are good enough for the readers.
Thank you so
And
much.
yeah, that's all for my question.
Thank you so much. It's really, I get it.
Thank you very much for first of all, I want to say the abstract in Chinese writing is normal. Maybe some Chinese things can help you rewrite again. So first, each page shows the two words short. You can say 2.5 or 3. You understand?
Yes, in the Chinese extract.
And also first in the training, larynx piece showed in Latin name or in your abstract in Chinese. Okay. So this first is some suggestion. But only one question is you select the how much of 82 blocks of the trees. Yes. The age is from 2012 to 33. Wait. The age.
Yes.
Yeah. I just want the question. This age is just young for the larynx. You understand?
Yes.
Yes. It's also the young right quickly.
Yes.
Grows quickly.
Yes.
Why only select the age? Only like 33. I don't know. From the 12 to the 40 or 60 years old, each lots. This may be more precise. The reasonable for your is to explain the different ages, the different density of the trees. You understand?
Okay.
You understand?
Why do you one side use like 82 samples of plot? Most of them is a younger forest.
Yes.
Why don't you select some old or mature forest?
Yes, sir.
This is the question you try to lay on.
Two questions about the materials method. You can find this page 29. The first question is just give the density height, but no, for example, slope, soil. Another question is for the you have 82 plot, but just 31 for unstory vegetation species diversity, and 66 for unstory biomasses, 20 for the humus layer.
Yes.
How many term we could overlay? Do you understand?
How many dam is what?
Overlay.
Overlay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because you want to use this data to do some significant test. I want to know how many data can be used.
How many data can you use?
You want to establish relationship between this sample plot, but you cannot give the how many plot can be used because different figures.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Another question is about the equations for the DBF and H, the height. The next page.
GBH and okay.
30. You give reference from the law and Liu
Yes.
2008.
Yes.
But this equation is for pinus, not for larus. It's for pinus.
Yes. Another species.
Yeah, this basis, this equation established for the pinus.
Okay.
Yeah, not for larus. 30页它公式 and it's established in the Yulin Shanxi province.
Yes.
Yeah, but you have do this one in the Ningxia.
Yes.
The third is this equations established in the desert area, not a mountain area.
Yes.
Right? So I don't understand why you use this equation to calculate the DBH and height. I don't think it's not accurate.
Yes.
You can study some combinations or equations. Professor Yang said this is for the data region for the people's Syriscus mongolica.
Yeah.
It's not for the knowledge in the mountain areas. Why you select such kind of formula here?
Can I give answer?
This is just a question you really understand?
Yes, I understand.
Okay, that's what they take ask.
Okay.
Thank you. First I compare this Chinese doctorate paper. This is the temporary diploid. I don't know. This is the your paper is the chapter 7. For Chinese the chapter is 9. So I don't know. This is maybe Professor Zhang can talk about why is the diploid for same university with you for the university.
Yes.
For same doctorate. You have this paper documented chapter 7 chapters.
Yes.
The Chinese is 9. I don't know there is a uniform or same guideline for all of doctorate paper. This is first doctorate papers structure is the first question. The second question about your title of your paper.
Yes.
We focus on trade-off between the overall story and understory. So this is the focus on trade-off.
Yes.
But in your methodology, chapter 4.
And
You discuss about for chapter 1, from part 1 to part 5. This sample plot setting or data collection or verification by mass showing, all of this measurement, even for soil carbon density. I think that all of this measurement, this is very simple. This I just very popular. You just give a very simple introduction of this. But this you should focus, give more introduction of the chapter 4 part 6 in the analysis and trade-off. This is your you need to give more explanation and the introduction because your title of the trade-off. So in your paper, just I see that.
means in 4.7 section I give
It's
more
because all of research papers, the methodology is very important. From 4.1 to 4.5, all of this methodology, I think this should be this methodology is not your research get off. This other people, for example, registered by show. This just you give a very simple introduction, okay. But I think this methodology you should focus, give more comprehensive another introduction of how to trade off, because your title of trade off between the over story and under story. Yeah.
That Professor Wong said from page 59 to page 33.
Yeah,
So most of your method is very formal,
Yeah.
simple
Yeah.
for the first survey. For first, the answer.
Yeah.
But your title, your HC is a trigger. So more things will be into section 4.6.
4.6.
Yeah.
You the how do you trade off?
Yes.
What you mention? What your philosophy? What you think about? So in your paper, just give maybe half piece of the analysis explanation of how to trade off.
So I can add a little more explanation.
Yeah. Because this is doctor read paper.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, I think because every
I get it.
expert will review this doctor data. I think it's very difficult to do.
I can.
Expert because this is doctor read paper. Yes.
Thank you, sir. I get it. It's a very good point.
Exactly.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I'm only wonder about the title of the thesis. For you is to establish optimize structure of the large forest.
Yes.
But your understory vegetation, there has no large in understory vegetation. In the table for this one. Most of them are the other plants,
Yes.
but there has no large.
Yes.
The large is your objective species.
Okay, sir.
So I don't understand how can you manage to produce such a maximizing structure of the large forest.
Actually,
Afterward, for the format of your thesis is not very regular. You should pay attention to the. Maybe this one is much better than yours. So you should reference to the other thesis to correct your paper. 我没其他问题了，其他还有没有问题？
One more question.
One more question.
You use the understory vegetation species number to show the basic structure of the forest. But why don't you use the species diversity index? I think this is a better than you this one. Species diversity index is normally total normal all of the level can show the also the species also as a construction of the vegetation.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You can summarize all the questions and refresh how to answer these questions. And we should ask Mr. How and after yours. First of all, he reply his question,
Okay.
and you can wait here for a few minutes.
Yes. Okay.
你先来。